This is it, pattern 10. We've gone through all 10 patterns, and so we've arrived at the last one. Remember, once again, pattern 9, 10. Sorry, let's try this again. Pattern 8, 9, and 10 are all variations of pattern 7. So pattern 7 establishes our direct object, and then pattern 8, 9, and 10 are all variations. Pattern 8 says, hey, let's do an indirect object with that direct object. Pattern 9 says, let's add an adjective to that direct object. And now pattern 10 is going to say, let's add a noun to that direct object. So this is what we have. So we start off with the noun phrase 1, which we know is going to be our subject. That little subscript 1 lets us know there's going to be some other subscripts coming up. Here's our transitive verb, which is a fancy word for saying an action verb. So remember, patterns 6 through 10 are all about action verbs. It's a transitive verb, which means it's going to have something that follows it, which answers what or whom naturally. So subject into an action verb, and I'm anticipating the direct object, and here he is. Noun phrase 2. This first noun is going to be our direct object. All right, so we're going to go directly over and find him. And then after that, you're going to find noun phrase 2 all over again. And so noun phrase 2 is going to be our objective complement again. Unlike pattern 9, which is what we're going to have as an adjective, which renames that direct object, now I'm going to have a noun which renames that direct object. Remember, we call this an objective complement because it is completing the object, and the object we're completing is the direct object. So think about how a pattern 3 and a pattern 5, where you have a noun at the end of the sentence which renames the subject, now you're going to have a noun which renames the direct object. So it's going to look just like a pattern 9. They look exactly the same structurally. Here's our place for our subject. Here's our place for our action verb. Our direct object's always after the action verb with a straight line which doesn't go all the way through. And now we have a slanted line, which is a perfect place to put in noun phrase 2. And this is our objective complement. This noun phrase 2 is renaming this noun phrase 2. This is your direct object. This is your objective complement. Nice thing is the order that it shows up here is the same exact order it shows up here. The reason it slants is because this noun is pointing back to this noun. So we're just simply renaming that noun with another noun, renaming the direct object with another noun. So here's an example. Few people consider NASCAR a sport. All right, so I can see my parts of the sentence here. I'm just going to build it ahead of time. I know that people is going to be my subject. Considered is going to be my action verb. My direct object, people consider what? Naturally, a direct object is NASCAR, and they consider NASCAR sport. And then we say it's few people and a sport. The nice thing about pattern 9 and 10, oftentimes, even if it doesn't have that expletive, as we talked about in the last screencast, you can oftentimes imagine it. You can almost like say, few people consider NASCAR to be a sport or as a sport. So you, even though they're not always in the sentence, you can almost imagine them being in there. All right, you know you have sort of the basic structure right if you can almost imagine that word to be or as in between the direct object and that objective complement. Looks great. Let's do another one. The senior class elected Donnie as its president. All right, so even though seniors are a noun, I'm going to use class as my subject. My action verb is elected. We elected Donnie, and we elected Donnie as its president. All right, so here comes president, and then I'm going to say it's the class and also senior class, and then it's its president, and then now we have that word as. It looks like a prepositional phrase. That's tricky. It does look like a prepositional phrase, but oftentimes that word as is not really a preposition as much as it's actually introducing this noun, which is renaming Donnie as president, and therefore this is our expletive. Remember, we can float the word as. We can also float to be. So in this case, as becomes my expletive. So the class elected Donnie president. It's president. You notice that you don't really have to say the word as, but it is there in this case. So it's our expletive up here on this little satellite, as we learned last time. Last video. The grammar gods declared Brainerd and Alonzo to be geniuses. All right, so here they are. There's Brainerd, there's Alonzo. Love it. They gave us the Reed-Kellogg diagramming. All right, so I can see already I got an issue here. I got a subject, which is grammar gods. I have an action verb declared. I have two direct objects. We're declaring both Brainerd and Alonzo to be geniuses. I'm using geniuses to rename those two. So I'm going to have to split that direct object, but I only have one noun after it. So it's going to look a little weird to you. Let me show you what it looks like here. See that? See how I have a place for the subject, an action verb, two direct objects. So I'm going to split that direct object, but because they both come back to the same noun, I'm going to have to bring that guy back in and then continue my line, and then here's my slanted line here. So basically what you've done is you've taken this line, you've split it open so you have a place for both Brainerd and Alonzo, and you've come back and continue the line as normal. All right, so let's get God's in here. Here comes declared. Let's get those two guys, Brainerd and Alonzo, and we're considering, or rather we're declaring them geniuses. Let's fill in these extra words of the gods and then also grammar gods. And then we have to be. Here's our expletive. We consider them to be geniuses. And lastly, we should have some kind of conjunction joining them. And so it's going to sit right here. And there it is. It's a beautiful looking pattern 10. Even though there are two direct objects, it's still 4 slots. And that's how we diagram this one. All right, let's go practice pattern 10. Oh my gosh. All right, let's stop this mess. I thought there was another slide. Look at that. Yeah, there is another slide. Whoop-de-doo. There you go, kids. Another slide. All right, just solidifying the fact that it follows a direct object, it signals by an as or a to be, pattern 9 or 10. This is the worst ending of a video ever.